Public safety diving is a group of people that are used to recover items or victims in or around water. Our goal, besides finding these objects, is to go home to our families at the end of the day. In order to accomplish this, we use a lot of specialty equipment to protect us from the elements. The one that most people probably think of is the scuba diver's dry suit. The dry suit is not only the outer skin, but also consists of a hood, some socks, and some thermal underwear that go on underneath it. I will put this on so you can see how that looks. As you can see, the underwear covers me from head to toe. It has special liners for the boots, gloves that will be covered up with rubber exterior gloves, as well as a hood that will be put on just before the rubber hood of the dry suit gets put on. Here you see I've started to get into the suit. The suit does have suspenders on each side to help keep it up, either when you're getting ready or when you're diving. It does help keep the suit up so it's not sagging so much. To get into the suit, there is a zipper in the back, but I simply put my thumb through a thumb hole to stop it from getting pushed up into the sleeve, and I press my hand through the rubber seal, and do the same thing on the other side. And then I put my head through the neck seal. There's both the neck seal and a hood. So I'll put it through the neck seal and leave the hood behind for right now. And then I have a partner zip up the back before entering, and I'll show where the connections go as well as the gloves in a moment. To put the gloves on, it's simply a rubber glove that gets pulled over to look similar to this glove here. The double seal around the ring of the cuff of the suit keeps it dry. The liner and the rubber together will keep you normally dry for about 30 minutes underwater with temperatures at about 35 degrees. One of the last pieces of the thermal protection under the suit is the hood. The hood not only keeps your head warm, but it also protects the eardrums from the rubber hood and the pressure that's placed on them. You simply put it on, pull the rubber hood over, and try and get the rubber of the hood to lay flat against your face. As you'll see in a moment, I'm going to put on a mask called an aga that needs to sit or seat firmly around here so that no air escapes out or water or chemicals come in. One of the last pieces of external equipment is this harness. Every diver under the water is attached to the surface, and we can communicate through a line, and it's all connected to this harness. Even if my BC were to come off, as you'll see in a moment, I cannot get out of this harness, and I would always be tied to the surface. In the event of emergency, they can pull a public safety diver up. Additional parts of the public safety diver and scuba diving is the cylinder containing purified air, a buoyancy compensator, also referred to as a BC, and that BC has weights in it to help keep the diver down, as this suit makes you buoyant. So based on the diver's weight, each of us use different amounts of weight to stay down. So you simply put the right amount of weight into a bag, and you place that bag or pouch into the BC pocket, and secure it in. This BC can then be mounted to the scuba cylinder and attached so that the cylinder and the BC are all now one unit. In order to breathe the air out of the scuba cylinder, you use a scuba regulator. This regulator not only gives you air to breathe, but it also allows you to control your buoyancy by inflating air into the BC here. One of the hoses actually hooks up to your dry suit so you can control the amount of air in your suit. Under pressure, the rubber gets very cold against the skin, so you're able to put in a little bit of air, which will expand the suit. You have to be careful because that added air in the suit will make you buoyant. So you have to use that in conjunction with the air you put in your BC, your buoyancy compensator, to go up or go down. Finally, there is a hose that hooks up to what I talked about earlier, which is the AGA. You simply hook that up here, and this is considered a positive pressure AGA, meaning once it's on, there's a little lever we can flip to open or close, and air will come out at all times. It's not dependent on our breathing. The reason a positive pressure is required as opposed to on demand is if you're diving in contaminated water, you don't ever want chemicals or water to come into the mask. So if there's a leak around the seal of your face, air will come out rather than water go in. There is a valve that if we're on the surface, it's called a gill. And if we open this up, we can close off the air supply from the cylinder and we will breathe ambient air. However, if we're on the surface of the water but still in the water and there's any chemicals such as fertilizer, fuel, gas, we will not want to breathe that, so we would keep this closed and breathe air out of the scuba cylinders at all times. Here you'll see I've slid the BC onto my back with the scuba cylinder. And the BC has multiple connections. There's a cummerbund, there's a belt with a latch, and then there's also a chest clip. And then finally the hose for my dry suit allows me to push a button and let air in. Likewise, to get air out, there's a valve here on the suit that I can turn to adjust the sensitivity. I can press it to let air out. However, the sensitivity is set so that as I'm rising, the air expands. If I raise my arm, it will come out here, as opposed to my gloves, which would fill up and possibly pop off. Once I have all of this on, and I'm ready to go in the water, of course I would put on the fins. And one of the last pieces to go on, just because of its complexity and cost, I would put on the AGA, and then again, with my hood on, I would slide this over my head. The straps are called a spider, which consists of 5 tightening points. I will put it on and tighten. You'll notice part of the system, I've got some shears mounted. Anytime you're going down, it's very easy to get entangled, whether it be part of the, so you're going down for an automobile, getting something stuck on that, or needing to cut the seatbelt that maybe someone has on. So you can use these to cut through. It's also very common to get caught in a fishing line or anchor line, and rather than panic and wonder how you're going to escape, you simply cut your way out. Along with that, you can control your buoyancy with this, and there's also another one on the back side. We usually have 2 cutting utensils anytime we dive for public safety diving. One item that we usually put on, especially on the circumstances, is we will put a second scuba cylinder called a pony bottom, used as a backup. It mounts right to this other cylinder, and then the regulator that we would breathe off of gets put right in front of us, so it would be on our chest of our BC. In the event that for some reason our AGA fails us, we can pull that off, we can quickly grab this and start breathing off of this other source of air until we get to the surface. There is a console connected to the regulator system that allows us to, one, see what our air pressure is, a dive computer that tells us what our depth is and how long we've been down, as well on the backside there's a compass. Frequently, while underwater, the surface who can talk to us will ask us what our air pressure is. They can monitor the time and most likely the depth by the rope we're attached to, but they cannot monitor what pressure we have remaining in our cylinder. Divers while under the water, as I had mentioned, are tethered. Tethered meaning there's a line that goes from the surface down to the diver. This line not only secures them so that they can be pulled up at any time in the event of an emergency, but this line also has communication built into it. The AGA itself has pieces that go against your head right here, just behind your ear, and it vibrates in the bone so your hearing is able to pick it up and hear what the surface is saying. As well as inside by the mouth, there is a microphone in there. Again, using an AGA, there's nothing that goes in your mouth, so you're free to talk as you normally would. This line simply hooks up with what is called a wet connector and connects up this way. This line is then tied with a figure 8, and the harness that the diver is wearing, this figure 8, gets connected with a carabiner to them. Therefore, this connector is not holding them. It's the line tied to or connected to the harness that the diver is wearing. The other end of that line simply hooks up to an adapter. This adapter is then plugged in to a communication box, of which you can have multiple divers connected to it, and the surface can hear. Once the diver is connected to the communication line as well as the communication box, you can turn on the power. This communication box has the option to allow multiple divers hooked up at the same time. Not only can the surface talk to the divers, but the divers can hear each other talk. In that manner, if the divers need to work together, they can communicate underwater and the surface can monitor at all times. With this box, the communication box, if the speaker is being used, you simply push the button to talk to the diver and then release to listen. Similarly, you can actually use a headset and talk to the diver, and only the person wearing the headset can hear what's taking place. That's often important if you have a drowning victim with the family on the surface. Things on the water travel easily, and you do not want the family members of a drowned victim to hear what the divers are seeing. In that case, the headset's a good thing to wear. These AGAs are positive pressure. However, there is a safety sleeve inside, or skirting, that does keep the nose and mouth separate from the eyes. The reason for that is in the event that the diver gets sick and needs to vomit, all vomit would stay within this area here, and it's actually designed so that it can be purged right out of this area. This AGA is probably the most expensive part of the entire dive system. The mask alone with a gill on it is $400. Inside, this red object down here is the microphone. And because when you go down underwater under pressure, you need to clear your ears, and there's no way to grab to pinch your nose, there is a nose block in here that you simply press the mask up against your nose in order to clear your ears. Maintenance on an AGA is very important because of the cost. After every dive, we take apart the regulator system. We clean where the air flows, as well as the mechanism used for the air delivery, which consists of rubber gaskets, plastic, springs, and miscellaneous parts, which all must be kept clean and lubricated in order to have a successful dive. Tucked inside the spider system that goes around your neck are speakers. Though they're not your standard speakers, they actually use the vibration that takes place when they're placed against the side of your head, and your ears are able to pick that up. So between the speakers, or the speaker inside, the microphone inside and the speakers, divers are able to communicate with each other as well as with the surface.